The alien watched the human enter, aware the truth had won. Below her, the Thrill orbital station hung like a jewel above an alien planet, gleaming silver against the blackness of space. It was larger than anything humans had ever seen, with towers and structures extending in patterns that seemed impossible, defying the familiar rules of engineering and symmetry. Alara felt a shiver of awe and tension at the sight. Humanity had dreamed of first contact for centuries, but now it was real. She could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on her shoulders. Behind her, the shuttle crew busied themselves with final checks. Lieutenant Ron adjusted the navigation instruments, while Dr. Kira Saul examined the alien communication devices they would need. Each human aboard the shuttle carried the hopes of Earth, a responsibility that felt almost too heavy to bear. Alara inhaled slowly and reminded herself that this was why she had trained for years. Humans were adaptable, resourceful, and resilient. They could face the unknown without falling apart. That was the strength she intended to show. On board the station, the Thrill observed silently. The species had watched Earth for decades, studying its inhabitants with precision and care. They were tall, with elongated limbs and luminescent eyes that could read subtle changes in emotion. Among them, one stood apart. Xyther the observer had waited patiently, knowing that this moment was unique. Humans were unlike any other species he had encountered. They were unpredictable, impulsive, yet capable of remarkable insight. He had been sent to watch, to record, and to evaluate. Yet as he watched Alara's shuttle approach, he felt a rare curiosity, tinged with something almost like anticipation. The shuttle docked with a gentle hum. Airlocks sealed and depressurized, then hissed open. Alara led her crew across the metallic bridge connecting the shuttle to the station. Every step echoed in the vast chamber, and the walls shimmered with a light that seemed alive, moving in waves as if responding to their presence. The crew exchanged nervous glances. None of them had ever experienced an environment like this. A voice resonated through the chamber, not in words they could immediately understand, but in a tone that was calm and commanding. The translation devices activated automatically, providing the crew with a voice they could comprehend. "Welcome, humans," it said. "You have been expected." Alara stepped forward. "I am Commander Alara Voss of Earth. We come in peace and seek understanding." Her voice was steady, though inside, her heart raced. She had rehearsed this moment countless times, but nothing could prepare her for the reality of standing before an alien species with unknown intentions. From the shadows, figures began to emerge. The Thrill were taller than humans, their movements graceful and precise. Their skin reflected light in soft, metallic hues, and their eyes seemed to hold knowledge older than humanity itself. They circled slowly, observing, assessing. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the station and the faint sound of the humans' footsteps. Xyther stepped forward, breaking the circle. His presence was both commanding and curious, his eyes fixed on Alara. "You have traveled far," he said. His voice, while calm, carried an authority that made the humans instinctively straighten. Few species venture beyond their home systems with such resolve. Few survive the journey and remain united. Alara nodded, understanding the subtle implication. "We survive because we adapt," she replied. "We learn. That is how humans endure challenges." Xyther's eyes narrowed slightly, not in suspicion but in careful consideration. Adaptation alone is not enough. Many species adapt and still fail. Survival depends on more than flexibility. It depends on understanding, on insight, on the ability to perceive truths beyond the immediate. The shuttle crew exchanged nervous looks, unsure how to respond. Alara's training kicked in. "We seek to understand, to learn, and to share knowledge. If there is a trial to be faced, we are ready." Her voice did not waver. Humans were not naturally aggressive, but they were persistent, determined, and courageous. These qualities, she knew, would be their strength. Zyther's gaze lingered on her, his luminous eyes reflecting the shimmering walls of the station. He had watched countless species, each claiming wisdom and courage. Yet humans were different. They were flawed, unpredictable, yet capable of brilliance in moments of pressure. He sensed it now, as the human stood before him with both confidence and humility. A subtle shift in the chamber signaled the beginning of the trials. Panels on the walls rotated, revealing intricate patterns and devices that humans had never seen before. The first challenge was not physical but mental. Symbols floated in the air, forming complex sequences that seemed to shift as they were observed. The humans had to solve these puzzles to proceed, and each solution required a combination of logic, creativity, and intuition. Lieutenant Ron stepped forward first, examining the patterns. "It's not just about the symbols," he said quietly. "They respond to how we think, not just what we know." Alara nodded. Humans had always excelled in situations where rules were ambiguous, where creativity and improvisation mattered more than rigid adherence to logic. Hours passed as the humans worked through the first challenge. They argued, collaborated, and sometimes failed. Each failure taught them something new. Dr. Saul observed the shifting patterns and realized that the symbols were connected to emotions, not just thought. When the humans approached the puzzle with genuine curiosity rather than fear, the symbols aligned, forming a pathway forward. Zyther watched silently, noting every detail. The other thrill murmured among themselves, their opinions divided. Some believed humans would fail, too unpredictable, too impulsive. Others saw promise, recognizing a spark they had not observed in centuries of observation. Zyther felt something rare, a glimmer of hope. When the first challenge ended, the humans were exhausted but exhilarated. They had passed not through brute force or sheer intellect, but through understanding and cooperation. Alara allowed herself a brief smile. Humanity had a way of succeeding where others might have relied solely on instinct or calculation. That was their edge. The chamber shifted again, revealing a new environment. This time, the challenge was social and moral. Holographic simulations displayed scenarios that spanned entire civilizations. Humans had to make choices affecting lives, resources, and the future of populations they could not see directly. Each decision carried weight, each action consequences. Alara observed her crew carefully. Humans were guided by empathy, even when it was costly. They hesitated to harm others, sought compromise, and considered long-term outcomes rather than immediate gain. These decisions were imperfect, but they reflected a depth of thought and care that the thrill had rarely witnessed in other species. Zyther felt a strange admiration. He had studied countless civilizations, watched them rise and fall, but never had he seen such a combination of courage, adaptability, and compassion. The humans were messy, yes, but in their messiness lay a remarkable strength. As the trials continued, small misunderstandings arose. Humans misinterpreted subtle gestures and the thrill tested their patience. Yet, even in moments of confusion, the humans persisted. They asked questions, sought clarity, and adapted quickly. Every misstep became a lesson. Every challenge an opportunity. By the end of the day, the humans had completed the second challenge. Their minds were tired, but their resolve remained strong. Alara looked at her crew and felt pride swell within her. They had entered a world that was alien in every sense, faced tests beyond their imagination, and had not broken. Humanity had survived not because it was perfect, but because it was persistent, curious, and capable of understanding truths beyond the obvious. Zyther retreated to observe from a distance. The other thrill continued their debates, their voices a mixture of admiration and skepticism, but he alone understood something profound. These humans were different. They had the spark that could shape worlds, the courage to face the unknown, and the wisdom to learn from it. As night fell over the alien planet below, casting its twin moons in silver light across the station, Alara allowed herself a moment of reflection. She did not yet know what the full purpose of the trials would be or what secrets the thrill held, but she felt a quiet certainty deep within her. Humanity had entered this chamber not merely as visitors, but as equals, observers and participants in a test that went beyond survival. And somewhere in the shadows, Zyther watched, aware that the moment had come when the universe might see humans in a new light. The truth had begun to reveal itself, and for the first time in centuries, the thrill would have to acknowledge it. The first part of the journey was complete, yet the true trials were only beginning. Humans had faced the unknown and emerged not unscathed, but enlightened. They had proven that adaptability, empathy, and courage could carry them through challenges that even the oldest civilizations had failed to overcome. And as the lights of the station shimmered around them, Alara felt the thrill of the adventure that lay ahead. Humanity was here, and they were ready. The chamber shifted again, walls twisting and reshaping themselves into a vast hall with ceilings that seemed to vanish into the shadows. Alara felt the familiar tug of unease in her stomach, but she held it back. She knew fear could cloud judgment, and here clarity would be their greatest weapon. Her crew followed closely, their movements cautious but purposeful. The air was cooler now, tinged with a metallic scent, and the lights that had shimmered gently in the previous room now pulsed rhythmically, like the heartbeat of the station itself. Before them, projections materialized from thin air, glowing in soft, shifting hues. Entire cities appeared, inhabited by beings whose forms were alien yet familiar. The humans recognized familiar patterns of life, markets, schools, families, but all conducted in ways they could not fully comprehend. Zyther had instructed the hall to simulate complex societies, designed to test morality, decision-making, and foresight. Every choice the humans made would ripple across these projections, and every ripple mattered. Alara took a deep breath. "Observe first," she instructed her crew. "Understand the situation before acting. Patience is as important as courage." Lieutenant Ron's eyes widened as he studied the projections. "These are like civilizations in miniature," he said. "And if we interfere, it could change everything for them." Dr. Kira Saul nodded, her brow furrowed. "It's not just interference, it's judgment. We have to decide what's right, not just what's convenient." Alara walked forward, stepping lightly across the glowing floor. "That is humanity's strength," she said softly. "We weigh consequences. We think beyond ourselves. Let's show them why." The first simulation began with a challenge that tested resource allocation. A sudden shortage of food threatened several cities in the projection. The humans had to decide whether to prioritize one city over another or attempt to distribute resources evenly, risking disaster in all locations. Arguments erupted among the crew, each human raising points grounded in logic, morality, and empathy. "I say we prioritize the areas that feed the most people," Ron argued, his voice firm. "We can't save everyone, but we can save the majority." Dr. Saul shook her head. "That assumes numbers are the only measure of value. A smaller community may have unique knowledge or skills essential to survival later. We have to think long-term." Alara listened, weighing their words. "We will combine approaches," she said. "Balance immediate needs with potential future benefits. Humanity thrives when we consider both." She gestured toward the projection, and the crew implemented a distribution plan that carefully balanced immediate relief with strategic planning for the longer term. The projections responded instantly. Citizens within the simulation cheered, rebuilt, and adapted. The ripple of success traveled through the holographic cities, revealing subtle outcomes the humans had not anticipated, teaching them lessons even as they acted. Zyther observed from the shadows. He had expected humans to falter here as other species had. Many civilizations would have chosen a single, straightforward solution, sacrificing nuance for simplicity. But humans thought in layers. They considered the heart as much as the mind. They calculated consequences while showing compassion. That combination, rare in the galaxy, fascinated him. The second simulation tested communication and diplomacy. Two societies within the projections had conflicting needs over a shared resource, water from a rapidly drying river. Humans were required to mediate and resolve the conflict, preventing war and ensuring the survival of both populations. Alara approached the interface and projected herself into the simulation, not as a leader but as a mediator. "We need to listen to both sides," she instructed her crew. "Every voice matters. Compromise may not be easy, but it is necessary." Hours passed as the humans negotiated. They discovered subtle cultural differences, misunderstandings that had fueled conflict for decades. They adjusted strategies, proposed creative solutions, and even sacrificed short-term gains to achieve long-term peace. Slowly, the simulations began to shift. The water was distributed fairly, both societies thriving side by side. Humans had not only solved the problem but had prevented future conflicts from arising. Zyther stepped closer, unseen by the humans. He noted each decision with careful attention. They did not dominate or coerce. They did not act selfishly or rashly. Instead, they sought understanding, empathy, and mutual benefit. A species capable of this would not only survive in the galaxy but would reshape it. He could feel the stirrings of a truth long denied. Humanity had a spark that could rival even the oldest civilizations. The third challenge tested adaptability and improvisation under pressure. A sudden simulation of natural disasters, storms, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions, threatened several cities simultaneously. Humans were required to make rapid decisions to save lives, stabilize infrastructure, and protect the population. The pace was relentless and mistakes could be catastrophic. Alara moved quickly, coordinating the crew. "We must stay calm and act efficiently. Observe, prioritize, and respond. Human lives, even in simulations, deserve our best judgment." Ron directed rescue teams, navigating floods and landslides with strategic precision. Dr. Saul analyzed patterns of destruction, predicting secondary disasters and adjusting plans accordingly. Together, they acted as a unit, each human complementing the other. They improvised when technology failed, used creative thinking to solve impossible problems, and maintained compassion even in moments of extreme stress. The simulations ended with most cities intact, their populations largely saved. Humans had demonstrated courage under pressure, the ability to adapt and learn, and the capacity to innovate when conventional methods failed. They had not only survived the trial but had exceeded expectations. Zyther felt a rare sense of awe. He had expected resistance, perhaps chaos, perhaps failure. Instead, he had witnessed a species that could balance intellect, empathy, creativity, and courage in ways no other species had shown. The thrill would need to reconsider everything they thought they knew about humanity. As the humans rested briefly, the station itself seemed to respond. Walls shifted gently, lights softening. A subtle energy moved through the chamber, as if acknowledging their achievements. Alara allowed herself a moment of reflection. They were not yet finished, not yet fully tested, but each trial had revealed the essence of humanity, the ability to persevere, to think, to care, and to inspire. The next challenge came without warning. A projection of a distant galaxy appeared, showing multiple planets in peril due to a cosmic phenomenon, a supernova that threatened to annihilate civilizations across light years. Humans were required to coordinate a massive evacuation, organizing resources, communication, and logistics across a vast scale. Alara studied the simulation, feeling the weight of the responsibility. "This is bigger than anything we've faced," she said, "but we are humans. We face the impossible every day and find a way." The crew worked tirelessly, each human taking responsibility for different aspects of the crisis. Ron coordinated transportation and navigation, Dr. Saul analyzed planetary environments, and Alara oversaw strategy and morale. Together, they built a plan that moved entire populations from danger to safety, using solutions that balanced efficiency with compassion. The simulation responded in real time. Some civilizations adapted faster than others, some faltered, but the humans adjusted. They learned from each mistake, recalculated, and pressed forward. By the time the projection ended, billions of lives had been saved. The humans had acted decisively, creatively, and with care. Zyther's eyes glowed faintly as he recorded the outcomes. No other species he had observed had managed to combine foresight, adaptability, and empathy on this scale. The humans were proving something extraordinary. They were not only survivors but potential leaders of civilizations, capable of inspiring and uplifting others even in the face of overwhelming odds. When the final simulation faded, the humans slumped with exhaustion. Their bodies were weary, but their spirits remained strong. Alara looked at her crew and felt immense pride. They had endured tests designed to challenge intellect, morality, and courage. They had not only survived but had thrived. The chamber shifted once more, returning to the open space where Zyther had first addressed them. He stepped forward, his presence commanding yet calm. "You have demonstrated qualities that few species possess," he said. "Courage, adaptability, compassion, and insight. You have faced challenges that test the very essence of life and emerged with integrity intact. This is rare. This is remarkable." Alara bowed her head slightly in acknowledgement. "We are honored to be tested," she said. "Humanity seeks understanding, not conquest. We learn, we adapt, and we act with care. That is how we endure." Zyther's luminous eyes lingered on her. "Few species balance intellect and empathy so consistently. You think beyond survival. You act with purpose beyond immediate gain. You consider the long term, the lives of others, the consequences of your actions. This is a quality that can shape galaxies." The other thrill observed quietly, some nodding in reluctant admiration. They had been skeptical, as most had been. But humans were proving themselves worthy not through dominance or aggression, but through intellect, compassion, and courage. Alara allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had faced one set of trials and emerged stronger. They had shown that survival was not merely about strength or technology. It was about understanding, collaboration, and the ability to act with integrity in situations that challenged every instinct. Zyther turned to observe the humans as they prepared for the next phase, which would test even deeper qualities: leadership, moral courage, and the capacity to inspire others beyond themselves. He sensed that the moment was approaching when the full significance of humanity would be revealed. As the lights of the station dimmed for the cycle of rest, the humans allowed themselves a brief reprieve. They had faced trials unlike anything on Earth, yet they had not faltered. They had learned, adapted, and persevered. And somewhere in the shadows, Zyther watched, aware that humanity was stepping closer to a truth that would change the way the galaxy perceived them. The journey was far from over, but the first steps had been decisive. Humans were proving that they were more than resilient. They were capable of brilliance, courage, and empathy on a scale the thrill had never witnessed. And Zyther, silent and observant, knew that the moment of recognition was drawing near. The chamber was quiet now. The hum of the station softened as if it were waiting, watching, and listening. Alara Voss stood at the center, her crew gathered closely behind her, tired but alert. Each had faced trials that had tested intellect, adaptability, and morality, and yet they remained unbroken. She could sense the presence of the thrill around them, invisible observers whose gaze carried centuries of knowledge and judgment. One figure, Zyther, remained silent, watching with attention sharper than any human's. His eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the soft lights of the chamber. "Prepare yourselves," Alara said, her voice calm but firm. "This next phase will test not just skill or intelligence, but character. What we do here may define humanity in ways we cannot yet imagine." The floor shifted beneath them, rippling like liquid metal. The walls dissolved, revealing an endless horizon filled with stars, planets, and galaxies stretching beyond sight. It was not a simulation. The chamber itself seemed to bend reality, placing humans within a realm where the cosmos was both tangible and interactive. Holographic beings appeared, each representing civilizations across the galaxy, some peaceful, others in conflict, all awaiting guidance. The humans exchanged uncertain glances. The scale of this trial was unimaginable. "We have faced challenges before," Ron whispered, "but never anything like this." Alara nodded. "We proceed as we always have, with care, thought, and courage. Remember, we are not here to dominate. We are here to understand and guide." The first challenge of this phase was one of leadership. Entire planetary populations depended on their choices. Natural disasters, political unrest, and resource shortages threatened to destabilize multiple civilizations. The humans were asked to make decisions that affected billions of lives. Mistakes could be catastrophic. Alara stepped forward first. She studied each scenario carefully, observing patterns, cultural differences, and environmental constraints. "We cannot rely on a single approach," she said. "We must listen, adapt, and consider both immediate needs and long-term consequences." Dr. Saul and Ron divided responsibilities. Dr. Saul focused on the needs of the populations, identifying areas most at risk, while Ron coordinated logistical plans to implement relief, evacuation, and support. Alara oversaw the larger strategy, ensuring that each action aligned with their goal, preserving life while maintaining stability. The humans acted decisively but not recklessly. When a simulated city faced flooding, they used creative solutions, floating platforms, temporary shelters, and new irrigation techniques to save lives without causing panic or chaos. When political disputes threatened peace, they mediated, proposing compromises that respected both parties while preserving resources and social stability. Zyther observed silently, noting each decision. Humans did not seek power or advantage. They did not act from fear or self-interest. They acted from understanding, from empathy, and from a desire to create harmony in a universe that often seemed indifferent. Hours passed in this way, the humans moving from one planetary crisis to another, learning, adapting, and solving problems that would have overwhelmed most species. Each decision carried lessons, each action consequences. Yet humans showed resilience, creativity, and the capacity for moral judgment that was rare even among the most advanced civilizations. The second challenge tested courage. Holographic projections simulated threats from beyond the galaxies, hostile entities, cosmic storms, and mysterious forces that defied comprehension. The humans were required to intervene, sometimes placing themselves in danger, not with weapons but with strategy, diplomacy, and ingenuity. Alara guided the crew. "We face unknown dangers. We do not fight recklessly. We act with precision, insight, and courage. Fear is natural, but it cannot control us." The crew executed complex plans to protect civilizations from threats they had never seen. In one scenario, a massive solar storm threatened multiple planets. Humans coordinated evacuations, rerouted energy grids, and stabilized infrastructure using knowledge, intuition, and collaborative effort. In another, a rogue alien species attempted to exploit a weaker civilization. The humans intervened diplomatically, offering solutions that protected the vulnerable while avoiding unnecessary conflict. Zyther noted the difference between humans and other species he had observed. Many species relied on aggression, dominance, or brute intelligence to solve problems. Humans relied on understanding, empathy, and the ability to innovate under pressure. They faced danger directly, but chose solutions that minimized harm and maximized opportunity for growth. The third challenge required foresight. Simulations presented scenarios where decisions could have delayed effects, impacting civilizations decades or centuries later. Humans had to anticipate consequences, make long-term plans, and adapt as events unfolded. Alara considered each scenario with care. "We think beyond ourselves," she said. "We plan not just for survival but for progress. We learn from mistakes and adjust. That is what makes humans resilient." The crew worked together to address issues such as resource scarcity, environmental collapse, and social unrest. They implemented systems that balanced growth with sustainability, preserving knowledge and culture while preparing for inevitable challenges. When unforeseen complications arose, they adapted quickly, demonstrating flexibility and creativity. Zyther's interest grew. The humans were not perfect. They made mistakes, hesitated at times, and disagreed among themselves. Yet in each misstep, they learned, adjusted, and acted with integrity. The capacity to combine thought, empathy, and adaptability in the face of uncertainty was rare, almost unprecedented. As the humans progressed, a fourth challenge emerged. This time it was personal. Each human was confronted with a scenario designed to test individual morality, loyalty, and courage. Their decisions affected not only simulated civilizations, but also the lives of their own crew. Alara faced a situation where she had to choose between rescuing a group of civilians or preventing a larger disaster that could affect thousands. She hesitated, considering the weight of her decision. "We act with wisdom," she whispered to herself. "We act with courage. We act with integrity." After careful consideration, she implemented a solution that balanced both needs, saving as many lives as possible while mitigating broader harm. Ron and Dr. Saul faced similarly difficult choices, each reflecting their values, experience, and moral judgment. Their actions revealed the depth of human character: courage tempered with empathy, decisiveness tempered with thought, and hope tempered with realism. Zyther felt something stir within him. For centuries, he had observed countless civilizations rise and fall, many failing not because of weakness, but because of rigidity or lack of compassion. Humans were different. They were imperfect, unpredictable, yet capable of brilliance, courage, and moral insight. In their imperfection lay potential. The final test combined all previous challenges. The humans were tasked with coordinating multiple civilizations, responding to threats, mediating conflicts, and ensuring survival across vast distances, all simultaneously. The scale was overwhelming, yet humans approached it with determination. Alara directed her crew with clarity and calm. "We work as one. We act with purpose, courage, and empathy. Remember what we have learned. Trust yourselves and trust each other." For hours, they worked tirelessly. They faced setbacks, navigated unforeseen complications, and adapted strategies on the fly. Their teamwork, communication, and moral judgment were tested to the limit, yet they prevailed. Civilizations thrived, conflicts were resolved, and the threats that had seemed insurmountable were mitigated. Zyther stepped closer, his eyes reflecting a mixture of admiration and astonishment. He had seen leaders before, species that commanded armies or controlled technology, but never had he seen such a combination of intellect, empathy, adaptability, and courage. Humans did not dominate through force, they led through understanding. At last, the chamber fell silent. The projections faded, leaving the humans standing in the center of the vast hall, exhausted but victorious. Alara looked at her crew and felt pride, gratitude, and awe. They had faced trials that tested every facet of their being and had emerged stronger, wiser, and more united. Zyther approached. "You have surpassed expectations," he said, his voice calm but resonant. "Few species can balance intellect, courage, and empathy. Few can act decisively while considering the greater good. You have demonstrated qualities that can shape civilizations, that can inspire and guide others in ways few can imagine." Alara bowed slightly. "We do not seek dominance," she said. "We seek understanding. We act to preserve life, to learn, and to help. Humanity thrives when we care, when we adapt, and when we face the unknown with courage." Zyther studied her, sensing a truth he had only glimpsed before. "You are different," he said finally. "You possess the spark of potential that few have ever shown. Others may conquer or destroy, but you create, you learn, you guide. You are capable of greatness." The other thrill emerged from the shadows, some silent, some nodding in recognition. They had debated, doubted, and questioned, yet the evidence was undeniable. Humans had faced trials that would have overwhelmed almost any other species. They had succeeded not through brute force or cunning alone, but through a combination of intelligence, morality, courage, and creativity. Alara allowed herself a small smile. She understood the significance of this moment. Humanity had entered a test designed to measure the very essence of civilization, and they had passed. They had shown that survival was not enough. Greatness required understanding, empathy, and the ability to act with integrity in even the most complex situations. Zyther turned to leave, but paused. His eyes lingered on the humans, reflecting both admiration and the weight of knowledge. "The final phase awaits," he said. "But know this, what you have shown thus far has changed the way we see your species. The truth of humanity is becoming undeniable." As the humans prepared for rest, they felt the weight of what they had accomplished. They had faced simulations of civilizations, disasters, and moral dilemmas far beyond anything Earth had known. Yet they had endured, adapted, and prevailed. They were stronger, wiser, and more united than ever. And somewhere in the shadows, Zyther watched, aware that humanity was stepping closer to a truth that would change the perception of the galaxy itself. They had not only survived, they had demonstrated the spark of potential that could shape worlds, guide civilizations, and inspire hope across the stars. The journey was far from over, but the humans had proven that they were capable of greatness, courage, and wisdom on a scale that few had ever imagined. The universe had taken notice, and the thrill, ancient and wise, were beginning to understand what humans could truly achieve. The chamber shifted once more, walls dissolving into a soft, endless glow. The humans stood together, weary but alert, their minds still racing from the trials they had endured. Every challenge they had faced, the moral dilemmas, the simulations of civilizations, the cosmic disasters, had tested them to their limits. Yet now, the space around them seemed to hum with quiet anticipation, as if the universe itself held its breath. Alara Voss took a deep breath, scanning the chamber. Her crew mirrored her resolve, knowing that this was the moment their journey had been building toward. Zyther emerged from the shadows, his presence calm, yet heavy with the weight of centuries of observation. His luminous eyes scanned the humans, measuring not only what they had done but what they represented. "You have endured trials designed to test intellect, courage, empathy, and moral insight," Zyther said, his voice resonating through the chamber. "Few species have ever approached such challenges with your combination of resilience and integrity. Yet the final test is not one of skill, strategy, or knowledge. It is a test of essence." Alara felt the weight of his words. The trials so far had measured what they could do, but this was a question of who they were. She nodded firmly. "We will face whatever this test requires," she said. "Humanity acts with purpose, courage, and compassion. That is who we are." Zyther inclined his head slightly, a gesture that the humans could not fully interpret but that conveyed acknowledgement. Then he raised his hand, and the space before them shifted. Stars swirled into vast constellations, and planets of every size and color appeared, connected by streams of light that pulsed like veins. The humans were no longer on a single station. They were floating within a cosmic web, observing countless civilizations, some struggling, some thriving, all interconnected. This is the repository, Zyther explained. A collection of knowledge, wisdom, and history from across the universe. Many have sought access, few have been granted it. The repository chooses those it deems capable of stewardship, for to wield its knowledge is to shape civilizations, to guide growth, to preserve life and understanding. The humans stared, awestruck. They had expected trials, challenges, even tests of character, but this, the scale and significance of what lay before them, surpassed anything they had imagined. Alara felt a tremor of awe mixed with responsibility. "We seek to learn, not to dominate," she said. "Humanity's purpose is to understand, to act wisely, and to preserve life." Zyther's eyes glimmered faintly. "Your words align with your actions. That is what the repository measures, not merely what you can do, but why you do it. Many possess power and intellect, but few act with understanding and moral insight. That is the essence of stewardship." The chamber shifted again, revealing holographic echoes of previous civilizations that had attempted access to the repository. Some had failed through arrogance, others through neglect or ignorance. Their failures were not violent. They had simply lacked the qualities necessary to balance knowledge with wisdom, power with care. And then the projection paused, highlighting humanity's trials, their choices, their courage, and their empathy. Zyther stepped closer to the humans. "I have observed your species for decades, longer than most of you realize. You are messy, unpredictable, often impulsive, but within that chaos lies a spark of potential that can create, guide, and inspire. This repository recognizes truth, and truth has chosen you." Alara's heart raced. She looked at her crew, Ron, Dr. Saul, and the others. They exchanged glances filled with disbelief and pride. Humanity had faced impossible challenges, yet their resolve, creativity, and moral courage had carried them here. They were not conquerors, nor were they flawless. Yet their imperfections had become strengths, guiding them to understand and act beyond themselves. "The repository is not a prize," Zyther continued. "It is a responsibility. Knowledge without wisdom can destroy. Power without understanding can corrupt. But you humans have shown that you can wield insight with compassion, act with foresight, and learn from mistakes. That is why the repository acknowledges you as stewards." A wave of realization passed over Alara. All the trials, the simulations, the cosmic disasters, the moral dilemmas, had not been tests to defeat or dominate, but to reveal the true essence of humanity. They had succeeded not through strength alone, nor intelligence alone, but through courage, empathy, and the ability to act wisely even under pressure. "Step forward," Zyther said, gesturing to a luminous platform that had formed in the center of the chamber. The humans obeyed, stepping carefully onto the glowing surface. Light enveloped them, warm and steady, as if recognizing their presence. The repository's energy seemed alive, attuned to their intentions, their courage, their hearts. As they stood on the platform, visions of countless civilizations appeared around them. They saw worlds struggling against environmental collapse, societies seeking knowledge, species learning, growing, and evolving. And then they saw the consequences of every choice they had made during their trials. Their decisions had created balance, preserved life, and prevented chaos. The humans realized that their actions had not only passed the tests, but had begun to ripple across the cosmos in ways they could barely comprehend. Alara's eyes glistened. "We have a responsibility beyond ourselves," she whispered. "We must act not for pride or gain, but to help, to guide, to preserve life." Zyther's gaze softened, almost imperceptibly. "That is precisely the understanding that the repository seeks. Few species act with such clarity of purpose. Few recognize that greatness is not measured by conquest or dominance, but by wisdom, empathy, and courage. Then the platform's light intensified, enveloping the humans in a warm, steady glow. Knowledge, not in words but in understanding, flowed into them. They did not see it as a flood of facts but as insight. How civilizations grow and collapse, the consequences of choices, the interdependence of life, and the subtle patterns that govern the universe. It was overwhelming, yet it was not frightening. They felt clarity, purpose, and connection with the cosmos. Hours, or perhaps moments, for time seemed fluid in the repository passed. When the light receded, the humans stepped down, transformed not physically, but in understanding. They felt an awareness of their role in the larger universe. They had seen the fragility and potential of life, the consequences of action and inaction, and the power of courage, empathy, and wisdom combined. Zyther stepped back, his eyes reflecting quiet satisfaction. The trials are complete. The repository recognizes humanity not merely as survivors, but as stewards. You have demonstrated that intelligence combined with empathy, courage combined with foresight, and creativity combined with moral insight can shape civilizations for the better. This recognition is rare and cannot be granted lightly. Humanity has earned it. Alara bowed her head in gratitude. "We accept the responsibility," she said. "We will act with care, courage, and understanding. We will honor this trust." The thrill, silent until now, began to emerge from the shadows. Some nodded in acknowledgement, others simply observed. For centuries, they had debated whether humans could rise to this level of responsibility. Now, their doubts were dispelled. Humanity had proven itself not by force or aggression, but by the very qualities that defined its essence: courage, creativity, empathy, and moral integrity. Zyther turned once more, looking at the humans with an expression that was almost reverent. "I have watched countless species attempt to wield power, knowledge, and influence. Many failed, not from lack of strength, but from lack of understanding. You humans have succeeded where many have failed. The truth has revealed itself through your actions. You are worthy." Alara felt a swell of pride and humility. She looked at her crew, exhausted but triumphant. Each had faced trials that tested intellect, courage, and morality. Each had acted with integrity, and together they had succeeded. Humanity had proven itself capable not just of survival but of greatness. As they prepared to leave the chamber, Zyther spoke one final time. "Remember, this recognition is not an endpoint. It is a beginning. Knowledge and responsibility are inseparable. You now hold the capacity to guide, inspire, and protect life across civilizations. Use it wisely. Humanity has been observed for centuries. Now the universe will see your actions and your truth will shine." Alara nodded. "We understand. We will honor it. Humanity acts not out of conquest but out of purpose. We will continue to learn, adapt, and act with courage and compassion." The platform shifted once more, returning the humans to a simpler chamber, yet they carried the weight of new understanding within them. The trials were over, but the journey was far from complete. They had been tested, judged, and ultimately recognized. Humanity had not only survived but had proven its capacity to shape the universe for the better. As they prepared to leave the station, Zyther watched silently. The humans were ready to step back into the cosmos, not as mere travelers, but as recognized stewards of knowledge and life. He knew that the universe would never be the same. Humanity had entered, faced the impossible, and emerged not only victorious but transformed. And in that quiet observation, Zyther understood the truth fully. Humans were not only capable of survival, they were capable of greatness. They were capable of changing the galaxy not through force, but through courage, empathy, and wisdom. The truth had won and the universe had witnessed it. Alara Voss took one last look at the stars beyond the station. The journey ahead was vast, uncertain, and full of challenges. Yet for the first time she felt a quiet certainty: humanity was ready. They had been tested, they had learned, and they had emerged worthy. The galaxy would see them not as intruders, but as equals, capable, courageous, and true. The human crew left the station together, stepping into their ship with a renewed sense of purpose. The stars stretched before them, endless and inviting. They were not alone, nor were they insignificant. Humanity had proven that even in a universe filled with ancient and powerful civilizations, a species guided by courage, wisdom, and empathy could shine brightly. Xyther watched as the ship disappeared into the vastness of space, aware that this moment would mark a turning point. Humanity had entered, faced trials beyond imagination, and revealed the truth of their potential. And as the station's lights dimmed, he remained, the silent witness to a truth centuries in the making. The human species had not only survived, it had won recognition, and the universe would never forget it. The alien watched the human enter, aware the truth had won.